been ages since I last streamed. And a couple of reasons for that, really. I've been traveling quite a bit. And also, I have, it's actually been strange. It's been a strange couple of weeks. A lot of work, a lot of phone calls, and not really enough structure to where I constantly feel like I'm going to get interrupted. So I'm probably going to get interrupted soon. But I decided to not care. It might be a short stream. Interrupted. I am very happy to be here. I am house sitting for my mother, and there was space for drums. So I actually recorded myself playing. If I go to the sampler, the easiest way to do this. So this is a program called Sunvox. It is a tracker with a synth engine built into it, like a modular kind of synth engine. The synth engines aren't super deep, but they are enough to have some fun with. And it's also exactly the same on Android. So I've got it on my phone as well. You don't see the timeline at the same time as the environment. I don't know what you'd call the section, the patching environment on the phone. Wait, maybe it tells you here. Modules routing. All right. So yeah, I guess the routing area. There's like a little toggle on the phone to go between the routing area and the timeline. And on the computer, you get all three. You can move things around with these bars. And literally, I grab here and I move left and right, and it moves that as well as the bottom. So you can quite easily adjust what you want to see. It's quite a clever UI. And it actually works really well on the phone as well. So this is more like what it looks like on the phone, although I'll usually just see the one or the other. Just swipe it up or down to change my view. And so basically, this little padlock up here means that we're not editing right now. If I press space bar, it toggles, so now I can add notes. And like most trackers, it's set to 1 by default, so it jumps to the next step as soon as I enter a note. And then I can enter a note on the next step, and so on and so on. You can play the pattern. You can play, I think, from where you are currently. And then this one is from the beginning to play. And then you can also record. And what's really cool, I've got my MIDI working. So that was actually me playing the drums. I recorded that today. And I've pitched it up to make some jungly drum and bassy vibes. So those are the two I've recorded. I recorded them in Reaper and then processed them there and brought them in here. The processing in here is okay. You've got filters. You've got a pro filter which can do like peaking boosts, like an EQ as well. And there's an EQ, but it's just a 3-band EQ. So there's enough filters to get the job done, but you kind of have to chain them together to make a full EQ, if you know what I mean. And so yeah, there's a sampler. I made a bass sound. It's going through this distortion, which also has like bit depth, and so you can kind of bit crush it as well. There's also noise. which is kind of like, in fact, Air Lo-Fi has similar controls. You can sort of go a bit further than just bit crashing in the Air VST. So this kind of reminds me of that. And then I actually made that like dub siren effect. Let me play from the top. You can solo modules with that S. You also saw I can bypass. And it shows it like blank in the routing area. And here I put some vibrato on this bass on this one step. What's cool is you can layer these what do they call them? Patterns. In fact, you can layer the patterns together. So this one is my drums, except we've got something soloed. Whoops, I just learned escape. So let's unsolo this guy. So that's just playing this pattern, but it plays everything, so we're hearing the bass as well. I'm actually curious if there's a way to just play this pattern without playing everything else, other than just doing this. So we've got this drum, got like a shakery hi-hat thing from a synthesizer, drum synthesizer here. We've got just a snare. I lay it up with my break. My break's got a distortion, just some gentle clipping on it, and a filter. Let's enable this again. This filter is actually boosting the kick a bit. And if I move it back here, you can see it's a bit like FL in that you can have anything anywhere. In fact, it takes it to the extreme. And this was recorded in. So when you record in, it just automatically makes a new pattern, which is just the length of the recording. So if I play it in context, it's just playing that siren thing. Basically, I added the analog device, and its default was a triangle. And the first note that I played was like exactly that note. So I just added some delay. So yeah, it's an interesting piece of software. I kind of only got into it because I was interested in having something on my phone that was different from like FL Studio Mobile. That wasn't really inspiring me at the time. Just to have some couch potato program to mess around with outside of the computer, you know. I was in a mentioned traveling before. I was in a position where it wasn't really comfortable to sit down at a laptop. So it was quite cheap on the phone. It's actually free on PC and Mac, and iOS and Android it's paid. It's quite cheap on Android. iOS, I believe they have audio bus support, so you can route or what is it, AUV3, so you can load it as like a plugin in another program, or bring sound in from other iOS apps, which is pretty cool. On Windows, it's pretty straightforward, and Linux. There's no VST or anything, unfortunately. It would be pretty cool if I could pipe this into Reaper and then have like separate outputs from a tracker. That would be really fun. Nod was one. How's it, man? Good to see you. I hope you're well. So this pattern is just you can hear a bit of vibrato on there. I might make it a bit more noticeable in the mix. So I'm going to basically, yeah, these are, if you've ever used a tracker, you'll be familiar with this sort of thing. So they've got an effects column where you can write in a code to select a different effect. So 04 in this effect lane is vibrato, and then XX is frequency, and YY is amplitude. So I've got it, and it's hexadecimal as well. So it mentions here that my number is 25. I mean, my number is 19, but it's the real parameter is 25 because hexadecimal has a few extra digits in it. And then this guy is 16. And that is, so yeah, basically I read in the manual that 40 is one semitone. So this is kind of wobbling at a quarter of a semitone, if that makes any sense. I'm going to bump it up to see what that sounds like. It's a bit more noticeable. That's like a half semitone wobble. Whoops. That. Just going to close. Apps. Right. So yeah, there's a few different effects. I think this one is the bend one that's going to it says slide down, and then you get a speed parameter. So sliding down, and then this is the note off, which you can add using I think it's the tilde key, the one above tab on my keyboard. Above tab and below escape. That does a note off. Also, when you've got the little lock unlocked, you can see here you can delete stuff or insert a note off. And then this just inserts, it actually shifts everything down. And backspace shifts everything up and deletes what was on the previous step. So it's kind of like ripple editing, but for tracker workflow. May have to go soon. Unfortunately. So yeah, what I like about this setup, I like that you have multiple patterns, so you aren't limited to just like 8 tracks or something like traditional trackers. You can see this one because I recorded, it just put in 2 lanes for me. And if you just double click in the blank space, it creates a new pattern. It's interesting also how these patterns, you can give them colors. So I like boosted the blue a little bit on this one. And that way I can sort of see that this one is different from those patterns. Also, when you clone a pattern, so if I right click and go clone, then it makes, it's kind of like FL Studio. It's made a mirrored pattern. So this will be whatever changes in this one is the same as that one. And there's a little wire to show you, which is also neat. So that one also, you can see the little wire there. And you can go detach, and then you've effectively made it unique if you're using FL terminology. So that's how I made this one unique. It doesn't sound unique at the moment. It's just this same drum break. But I intended to make a variation on this break. Sushi Monster, what's up? I wonder if I can keep this window on my screen. Hi, Sushi Monster. Yeah, man, I won't be here long, I'm afraid. I'm going to get interrupted shortly. Where the heck am I going? Well, I've got the drums here. I'm just going to be practicing daily, and I've got this. I actually used this mic to record the break in this jungle tune. So there was more to the break that I exported from Repo when I was done messing with it and processing it. And I don't think it's here. If I play my sample. So I've got that, and I've got. So we need to add in some more breaks. So the sampler is pretty rudimentary. It does have multi-samples though. So this is just an envelope. It's basically, you can see when I let go of the note, this is the release. So I've made it as short as possible. And then here's the samples tab. There's the one break. So this one you can also see is on all the notes except C5. C5 is this one. I also worked out you can sort of, the relative note will just make it so like if I'm playing C5, the default relative note was 16, which was the same note, I think. So I've transposed it slightly so it's pitching up the break. So now I want to load something into this third slot. So I'm going to come in here and go, how does one do this actually? Load. So this is my break. If I preview it, now that preview is enabled, my keyboard, my MIDI keyboard is going to play this sample. Or not, apparently. Oh, there we go. Now it's previewing. I guess I had to click it again. This was another beat that I made. It's quite soft. Could be fun. Yeah, I might use that some other time. But for now, I wanted this one. So this was I recorded it at 140 BPM and processed it slightly in Reaper. So this is the full break. Whoops, now it's slot 2, so I need to, that's the one, and then that's the other ones, so I can load it on here. So all I do is click on this keyboard, and now it's active note for this sample slot. And let's go back to this one. So relative note says 20. This one says 16. But because it's one note up from that, it's going to be a relative 19. It's a bit confusing. But now you can hear it's the right pitch. The next thing I do is select everything and go Effects, Normalize. Now you can hear it's the same volume as the other ones. So I'm going to, let's think, what do I want to do here? What I'm going to do, actually, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this. And so I just pressed Control-C for copy, but you can also go into this little menu here. Now I'm going to paste the whole thing in there and here. That way I've got some copies of it. Because then maybe I want to just grab like this. So I'm going to do drop. And then I can refine it a bit. You can also do fade outs in that effect menu. So this is pretty primitive, but the reason I'm even messing with it in the first place is, again, I could theoretically put this on a phone. I mean, I bought it on my Android phone. So I'm curious to see how, you know, for the most part, it seemed like exactly the same program, which is pretty cool. I'm curious if it can load samples. I mean, it can. It's got the sampler. I'm just curious if I can edit the samples on my phone. Because then I could just stick a bunch of breaks and things on my phone and I could have a little jam on my phone. In fact, the initial idea was I got it for my phone. I hadn't even installed it on the computer yet because I was wanting something to jam with on my phone. Ooh, you there? Can you hear me? Just curious. I wasn't sure if you there is a question or a statement. So now we've just got that piece on a key. And I'm going to go back to this edit. And I'm going to switch on loop. Where did I see that? Set loop, there we go. There we go. That's one. Let's go to slot 3. And then maybe I'd like, let's just assign it to this note. Wrong note. Relative note must now be 18, I think. Ooh, funky. There's a whole second half, which I would imagine is from somewhere there. Whoops, I went too far. let's use that. Somewhere here. So let's see. Just hear this pattern again. All right, let's go. Let's get it to. Let's go edit. I'm going to copy. Let's copy the whole groove again and just put it on many of these as we like. Or just a few more. So we're currently on this one. I also want to copy this one now. This one is. I'm going to select all, hit copy, go on here, select all, delete and paste. So now this one will be this loop. I actually just wanted to start from here now, and you'll see why. Maybe we wanted to start here actually. It's interesting how the resolution like improves as you zoom in. Like it looks very crude when you zoomed out. Don't know if you can add to your selection. There we go. Delete. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. If I let go shift. There we go. Pitch must go up 1 now, I think. Okay, let's listen to this again. Okay, now I've pressed space bar, so now I can edit. You can see the little padlocks open. So now I'm going to hit this. Okay, I might have to go shortly. I'm just going to mute my mic for a moment. can see how tedious this is. And I suspect it would be even more tedious on the phone. But it's different. And I'm always up for learning something new. Oh, there's one other little thing that I did. So when I played, so C5 was the root note for the original break, and then I played it on E5, so 4 semitones up to get it to the sort of right BPM for jungle. And then this was just how I got it in sync. So then I put E5, which is, as you can see, I put E5 down here. And basically at the time it was a full 2-bar loop, and I could hear it looping almost right at my BPM, but not quite right. So I actually went in here, if I double click on this, and there's a fine tune for the whole sampler. Which I think was at 44 now. So yeah, I just fine-tuned it until it looped evenly, and that's kind of how I got it in sync. I could just see if we can add that in. Could be worked on, could be refined a little bit. But yeah, I think you guys get the idea. I'm going to hop off. I was hoping to stream hours ago. But yeah, priorities. And I need to hop off. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Maybe I'll be back. I'm going to try, the next thing I want to try, if you go into the project settings, project properties, you can see beats per minute is 174. This is the default ticks per line. So what I learned, that there are 24 ticks in a beat. So if you want, in other words, 6 4s are 24. So if you want 16th notes, there's 4 6s, so 4 ticks to a beat, which is what this currently is. It's currently playing 1 2 3 4 1. It's playing twice that. It's 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Each beat has 4 lines in it, and each line is 6 ticks per line, if that makes sense. So I was thinking to make triplets, presumably, so 24 is divisible to 12, and which is divisible to 6. Either way, so 4 6s. So if I want, so I was thinking if I set it to 4 ticks per line, that should be sort of a triplet grid. Not 30-second notes, but so 3 is 30-second notes, 4 would be 12th notes, I think. I think. My toilet math. My toilet math might be a bit off. But I'm going to try that next, is create triplets and then see if I can do like a swung house beat or something with it. And yeah. Have a wonderful day. Definitely check this app out. The developer has amazing music, actually. His music's really cool. And his tutorials And there's lots of other tutorials out there. So if this is something you feel like dabbling with, I'd recommend having a look. So you've seen me use just this simple analog synth. You've got like traditional waveforms, as well as some other ones. There's even, you can even draw a waveform, I discovered. So yeah, you can select a drawn waveform. And then things are addressed by these numbers. So 01 is the sampler. This OA is my bass. So if I go to the bass channel, you'll see OA written there, and it's also green. So it's color coded. You can even automate stuff by hitting record and moving these sliders around. If you shift click on them, if I shift click here, now I've written this volume value to this lane. So this is a controller lane. And so you can see control 1, which is labeled number 1, which is volume. So if I wanted to write something for waveform, it would be 02. So you can type it in, or you can just shift click on a parameter and it'll just add it in, and then you can automate it. I need to hit space, do I? Yeah. Go. So that's how that works. It's pretty straightforward when you start to figure it out. Then, so if I add a module just by double clicking here, you've got a drum synth. You've got 2 different FM things. I have explored this one. I haven't explored that one yet. You've got a kick drum generator. Got an interesting spectra voice thing. Got some basic effects. What's really interesting is meta module. It's basically you can load a project within a project. So, and then you can tell it which module to trigger in the parent project. So you can create, for example, where you play a note and it actually plays a pattern inside the meta module, and that pattern could maybe be, I don't know, automation, or you could automate a volume of an effect to make a gate, for example, and then you press a note and it plays that gate. I think you can also have it just free running, which is, yeah. So, and you can also use it to build like complex synths. So instead of patching everything here, you could make a synth with delay, with other things to process it, and just have it in a meta module. So it sort of can make your environment pretty neat. One of these control things, I forget which, but you can basically make, you can give it input smoothing. So instead of having your automation all stepped here, it would actually, you could create like a slew kind of effect where it delays. So you can actually make it smooth, which is pretty neat. So yeah, there's more to it than meets the eye, is I guess what I'm saying. So yeah, you could put ADSRs and you can map them to things. There's so much. I haven't explored it all yet. I've watched some videos and it's pretty cool little modular environment. Oh yes, the compressor has side chaining. So I actually had a kick here. Let's just play. I unmute the kick. Solo. These 2. So in the compressor, I've chosen sidechain input number 4 kicker, and I bring down the threshold. You can actually hear that. So I don't know any other app on Android phones that has sidechaining, for example. So obviously, if you've got iOS, you're spoiled for choice, but on Android, it's a desert wasteland for music apps. So I was pretty stoked to see that. But yeah, I ended up not using that kick. One other thing, just before I go, if you click load, you can apparently load even wave files, and I guess it loads them into the sampler. There's also a bunch of presets in the Sunvox directory. and you can preview them. If this preview button's on, then the keyboard up here, or my push in this case, can trigger things, even samples. Which frankly is better than some DAWs in terms of workflow, that I can just preview stuff with my keyboard. Wow. You can hear that some of these are, when it says .sunsynth, some of them are those, what I was talking about just now, that the project within a project, basically. So you can even have, you'll see there's even loops in here. They're not amazing, but they're something. And some of the sounds are really good. We're still in drums, I think. Get out of there. If I go like keyboard. This is what I mean with that project within a project thing. Someone's made a preset with reverb on it. Ha! You can hear there's quite a few synths in that one. Sounds like there's 3. Cool, you get the idea. So yeah, you can load stuff from there. If I click OK, here's this new thing that I added. And if you shift drag, you create a connection. Now it's plugged into my compressor. If you shift drag again, it disconnects. If you shift drag the other direction, now you've got the compressor actually feeding into this, which we don't want. Then there's also on the phone, you can click this button and you just click that. Excuse me. So if this is selected and I click that and then I click that, that'll create or that. There we go. So that's another way to create connections. You have something selected, you click on that, then you click the destination. But on Android and touch devices, you can actually just hold this device and then tap the other device, and it'll connect it that way. So it's pretty easy to use on the phone. You grab these bits as well to move the interface around on the phone. Yeah, it fits surprisingly well. Anyway, that's Sunvox. Hope you guys found this interesting. Have a